Most businesses don't fail because they run out of money. They fail because they run out of cash. And if you don't understand the difference between those two things, you're already building on shaky ground. Today, we're talking about how to create a business that doesn't just survive, but actually lasts. Here's the problem nobody tells you when you're starting out. Profitability and sustainability are not the same thing. I've seen businesses making 6 figures a year collapse within months. I've also seen companies operating at a loss for years that eventually became industry dominators. The difference? One group was chasing revenue, the other was building systems. Most entrepreneurs get sold this fantasy: find product market fit, get customers, scale up, and you're golden. But that's not how real businesses work. Real businesses are messy. They're about managing cash flow on a Tuesday afternoon when payroll is Friday. They're about knowing which expenses to cut and which ones are actually investments. They're about understanding that growth without foundation is just a faster path to failure. So if you're past the follow your passion phase and you're ready for how this actually works, stay with me. We're going to break down how businesses are really funded, how they operate day to day, and what separates the ones that last from the ones that don't. Let's start with funding, because this is where the fantasy and reality diverge hard. The startup mythology tells you to raise venture capital. The reality, less than 1% of businesses ever take VC money. Most businesses are started with what we call the 3 Fs: friends, family, and fools, or more commonly with credit cards and personal savings. Here's what nobody shows you. Different funding sources create different businesses. Take venture capital. VC-backed companies are designed for one thing: exponential growth. That's not good or bad, it's just the model. You take money, you give up equity, and now you're on a clock to deliver 10x returns. This works brilliantly for software companies with network effects. It destroys most other businesses. Let me give you a real example. In 2015, a meal kit company called Chef raised over $35 million from investors. By 2018, they were bankrupt. Why? Because they were burning $10 million a quarter trying to compete with Blue Apron and HelloFresh for market share. They had revenue, lots of it, but their unit economics were upside down. They were spending $94 to acquire customers who were worth $70 in lifetime value. Contrast that with a bootstrapped restaurant group I consulted for. Started with a single location, funded by a second mortgage and a small business loan. No investors breathing down their neck demanding hockey stick growth. They opened their second location only after the first one was consistently profitable for 18 months. Today, they have 6 locations and actually own their real estate. Slow? Yes. Sustainable? Absolutely. The structure you choose matters. An LLC gives you flexibility and tax benefits for smaller operations. A C Corp is necessary if you're raising institutional capital. An S Corp can save you on self-employment taxes once you're profitable. But here's the thing. Your structure should match your model, not the other way around. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you're running a business, because this is where most people's understanding falls apart. Cash flow is not the same as profit. You can be profitable on paper and still go bankrupt. Here's how. Imagine you're a wholesale business. You sell $100,000 worth of products to a retailer in January. Looks great on your P&L, but they don't pay you until March. Meanwhile, you need to pay your supplier in February, your employees every 2 weeks, and your rent on the first of the month. See the problem? This killed a marketing agency I knew. They landed a massive contract, $40,000 a month, celebrated their big break. But the contract had 60-day payment terms. They hired staff, upgraded their office, bought new equipment. 2 months later, they couldn't make payroll because the client money hadn't hit their account before they ever saw the money from their biggest success. Sustainable businesses manage working capital obsessively. They understand the cash conversion cycle. They negotiate payment terms. They maintain cash reserves that aren't just for emergencies, they're for operations. Customer acquisition is the next reality check. In the beginning, most businesses get customers through hustle, cold outreach, personal network, showing up everywhere. That's fine. But if you're still doing that 3 years later, you don't have a business, you have an exhausting job. Sustainable businesses build systems for customer acquisition. That might be content marketing, paid advertising with proven ROAS, partnerships, or a sales team with a repeatable process.
The key word is repeatable. If you can't explain how you'll get your next 100 customers, you're not ready to scale. Let's talk value creation, because this determines everything else. Your business needs to solve a problem that people will pay to solve, and solve it better than the alternatives. Sounds obvious, but I see businesses all the time that are just slightly cheaper or slightly faster than competitors. That's not enough. Look at Warby Parker. They didn't just sell glasses online, they solved multiple problems. Price, glasses that cost $10 to make were selling for $500. Experience, trying on frames at home. And meaning, buy a pair, give a pair. They created value in 3 dimensions, which gave them pricing power and customer loyalty. Compare that to the dozens of Uber for X companies that failed. Uber for lawn care, Uber for laundry, Uber for dog walking. Most of them didn't create new value. They just added an app to something people were already doing. No fundamental improvement means no defensible business. So what actually separates businesses that last from those that don't? First, unit economics that work. This is non-negotiable. If it costs you $100 to acquire a customer and they're worth $80 over their lifetime, you don't have a business, you have an expensive hobby. And no, you can't make it up in volume. Here's a case study that illustrates this perfectly. MoviePass. Remember them? Unlimited movies for $10 a month. Sounds amazing for consumers, fatal for the business. Average users saw 3 to 4 movies a month. MoviePass paid full price to theaters, around $12 per ticket. They were losing money on every single customer, betting they could monetize through data and partnerships later. They couldn't. They burned through $200 million and collapsed. Second, scalability, but real scalability, not venture capital scalability. Can you serve 10x the customers without 10x the costs? Software companies can. SaaS is beautiful this way. Adding your 100th customer costs almost nothing compared to your first. Service businesses can't scale the same way. That's not good or bad, it's just that you need different strategies. I worked with a financial planning firm that hit this wall. They were growing, adding clients, but their revenue per advisor was capped. They couldn't scale beyond their human hours. Their solution, they unbundled their services. High-touch, comprehensive planning for premium clients, automated digital planning for DIY customers. They built software tools that let one advisor serve 3 times as many clients. Same business, different scalability. Third, systems and processes. If your business can't run without you, you own a job, not a business. Sustainable businesses have documented processes, standard operating procedures, and systems that outlive any individual person. McDonald's is the ultimate example. Love it or hate it, you can walk into a McDonald's anywhere in the world and get the same product. That's not because they hire exceptional people, it's because they have exceptional systems. Every process is documented, measured, optimized. Fourth, adaptability. Markets change, technology changes, customer preferences change, sustainable businesses evolve. Blockbuster versus Netflix is the classic case, but let's look at something more recent. Bookstores. Borders died, Barnes & Noble struggled, but independent bookstores? They've actually grown over the past decade. How? They adapted. They became community spaces, hosted events, curated selections, added coffee shops. They stopped competing on price and selection. They couldn't win that battle against Amazon. They competed on experience and community.
Fifth, leadership and decision-making frameworks. Bad leaders can kill good businesses. I've seen it repeatedly. The sustainable businesses have leaders who can make hard decisions, firing customers who aren't profitable, shutting down product lines that aren't working, saying no to growth opportunities that don't align with core competencies. And finally, risk management. Sustainable businesses don't avoid risk, they manage it intelligently. They diversify revenue streams, they maintain cash reserves, they have insurance, they have succession plans. Let me make a critical distinction. There are businesses designed for short-term extraction and businesses designed for long-term value creation. Both can make money, but only one is sustainable. Short-term businesses optimize for quick revenue. They cut corners on quality. They underinvest in systems. They squeeze suppliers and employees. They grow by acquisition instead of retention. They work until they don't. I consulted for an e-commerce company that did $8 million in year 1. The founder was on podcasts, speaking at events, showing everyone his revenue graphs. By year 3, they were out of business. What happened? They optimized entirely for customer acquisition, spent 80% of revenue on Facebook ads. When iOS privacy changes killed their ad targeting, their entire model collapsed. They had no brand loyalty, no organic traffic, no email list, no repeat purchase rate. They built a house of cards. Long-term businesses might grow slower, but they grow stable. They invest in customer experience. They build brand equity. They create genuine competitive advantages. They focus on retention as much as acquisition. Look at Patagonia. They could maximize short-term profits easily. Lower quality materials, faster production cycles, cheaper labor. Instead, they invest in durability, sustainability, and brand values. They literally tell customers not to buy their products unless they need them. Their repair program fixes competitors' products. Sounds like bad business, right? Except they have fanatic customer loyalty and they've been profitable for decades. So what can you actually do with this information? Here are your immediate action items. 1. Calculate your real unit economics. What does it cost to acquire a customer? What's their lifetime value? If you don't know these numbers, figure them out this week. 2. Map your cash conversion cycle. How long from when you spend money until you receive money? Where are the gaps? Can you negotiate better terms? 3. Document one critical process in your business, just one. Make it so someone else could do it without asking you questions. 4. Audit your revenue streams. How many do you have? What happens if your biggest one disappears tomorrow? If that thought terrifies you, you need diversification. 5. Look at your decision-making. What's your framework? Are you optimizing for this quarter or for the next decade? Be honest. Creating a sustainable business isn't about following a blueprint. It's about understanding principles and applying them to your specific situation. It's about building systems, managing cash, creating real value, and making decisions for the long term. The businesses that last aren't necessarily the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones with the best execution, the strongest foundations, and the discipline to build for durability instead of just growth. Your business doesn't need to be exciting, it doesn't need to be revolutionary. It just needs to solve a real problem, do it profitably, and have the systems to keep doing it year after year. That's sustainability. Everything else is noise.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching.